So I know a lot of people here are at the early stages of their business, maybe scaling it up. In the early days, you guys were doing some pretty scrappy things. How did you validate this model? You know, the success story you just mapped out sounds good, but how did you know you were on the right track? And how did you validate what you were doing was actually, this is what we should be spending time and energy on?
Sure. So it was actually interesting. The way the founders, the CEO, sort of decided on what vertical markets we were going after was essentially just scanning the yellow pages and looking at every different specific category that existed and what might be a potential, good vertical that we could, offer or sell leads into. And then doing some market testing, buying keywords, driving traffic to, sites that we had generated to see what kind of consumer interest there was, and then determining based on the consumer interest, was there actually, a model that we could sell into? So we quickly realized that there were clearly vertical markets that we couldn't sell into. They wouldn't buy leads. One of the big ones that, was, hurt a little bit was because it's such a large market was restaurants. Restaurants don't buy leads. Restaurants don't buy phone calls. Eventually what we evolved, I kind of skipped a step here. We evolved from selling leads into cracking a model on selling phone calls and what we called paper action phone calls. And what that essentially means is we had a technology in-house that was able to take a recording of a phone call, parse the voice from the conversation into text, and then used an algorithm that determined based on the text keywords that we were able to see whether the call was related to new business. And then if the call was related to new business, we would bill for that phone call. And if it was not related to new business, that call was essentially free and on the house. So it didn't fall under the mold of the paper call model, so we sort of created the new term paper action phone call, so that we were actually billing for a reasonable business intro, for whichever vertical market we were into. So as far as testing the market, it was, there's no simple way to say it other than I locked myself in a conference room with a few spreadsheets and just started smiling and dialing. It's the only way to figure out if people were going to buy a product and then figure out what that product was that they were going to buy. And it was sort of on my shoulders to say we kind of understand what we want the model to be, but what exactly is each industry willing to purchase? And you learn quickly that certain business owners view their clients or their customers or their patients very, very differently. And so I learned quickly, for example, in the veterinarian model that, they could care less about making money. All they care about is saving the puppy's life, which is noble. There's nothing wrong with that, but, for me as a sales guy, I got to sell a product. I need to find a way to get them to purchase it. Versus, for example, the chiropractor industry, where not only were these guys doctors, but they also had a head for marketing. And they were very interested in driving new business and turning new clients into more dollars for their practice. So it was a lot of just sort of trial and error, making these phone calls, having conversations with business owners, and essentially the model, the business on whether or not we were going to, the decision on whether or not we were actually going to roll out a business for the sales team was determined on if I could actually get people to give me a credit card over the phone to buy my product without a website and without a real product existing, but just the concept of the product that I would sort of deliver. And if I was able to do that within 24 hours to get, one or two credit cards, we were relatively confident that we could roll that out to a sales team and teach them how to do it as well. And thankfully, we were right.